Hi guys, the Metal Maniac back again, and in this video I'm going to be doing a review on the album Dying Remains by the band Morta Skuld. This was released in 1993 and it's their debut album. Alright, so before I get into the track listing, I'm going to name off the band members really quick. Jason O'Connell on guitar, Kent Truckenboard on drums, Jason Hellman on bass, and Dave Greger on vocals and guitar. Alright. So, the album starts off with the, song, or technically instrumental. This is a very short instrumental. It's called Lifeless. It's really something that isn't memorable, not because it's a bad instrumental, really, but because it's so short. The point where it doesn't really matter if it's there or not. I don't know why they decided to have a very short instrumental as the opening track. Maybe if this was somewhere else on the album, it would fit better. But I don't know. I don't think the instrumental fits. It's so short and it just feels out of place. Yeah. So the next song is a full-fledged song. The next song, technically the first song, I guess, is called "Without Sin." This one is really good. It's very much like the rest of the songs on this album. It's very groove-oriented. But yeah, "Without Sin," great song. The next track is called "Devour Fears." Another great song, just has a great groove to it, and the vocals are great. Next track is called Dying Remains, and it's the title track. This one is my favorite song on the album. It has everything perfect about it. It's just a perfect song, and I absolutely love it. Next song is called Useless to Mankind. Just another overall great song. And then the track that ends side A is called Rotting Ways. Another great one. Track B starts off with Withering Seclusion. Another great one. Then track number 2 on side B is Hatred Creation. Another great song. Track number 3 on side B is called Scarred. Another great one. Track number 4 on side B is called Consuming Existence. This one is okay. I don't mind it. And then the last track on the album is called Presumed Dead. This one's also just okay. So my overall thoughts before my rating. This album is not, it's not like most other albums, of its era. There's a lot of albums around, the 90s, especially, death metal albums, but yeah, a lot of death metal albums around the 90s, were a little bit more technical, sometimes a bit more speedy. This album is very slow and doomy. Like, it's very groove oriented, and it's kind of slow and just almost, it's like death doom. It's weird because it's a weird album to have out around that time. I know around 94-ish is when there were a lot of albums that were a little bit more slow, a little bit more groove-oriented, and even a little bit more atmospheric. This is kind of like that, but this is at the tail end of the classic death metal era that was a bit more fast and speedy and all that. So this is in a weird spot. It's good. It's good. It's very good despite it being a slower death metal album. Now I don't usually like slower, more doomy death metal albums, but it works for some reason. Also, it's very simplistic and just very standard. But honestly, that doesn't matter because even with that, it's still very, very, very memorable. The last two songs are just okay, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't really matter because the rest of the album's great. Honestly, this album reminds me of two particular death metal albums. First up, the one of the ones that it reminds me of is "Severed Survival" by Autopsy. Just a sort of a slow, slightly a little bit slower, doomy, more atmospheric album. This kind of reminds me of that, as well as oddly enough, Gateways to Annihilation by Morbid Angel. I don't know what it is. It just for that one, it kind of has a little bit of the same song structure as that one. Obviously not, super like it, but it just has some of the elements that remind me of Gateways to Annihilation. But this one's more closely, it more closely sounds like Severed Survival than it does Gateways to Annihilation. Although Severed Survival does have a problem where it has the exact same guitar riff throughout the entirety of the album to the point where the second half I just can't stand. But yeah, this doesn't have that problem, thankfully. Um, Overall, even though it's a very, standard and typical death metal album, I love that it's very groove oriented and just it's slow and doomy, but I don't care about that. It doesn't really bother me because it has such a good atmosphere to it. Overall, I'm gonna give this album an 8 out of 10. The only problems I have with it are the last two songs just being okay. And then an the beginning track, I don't think the instrumental really works that well for the album. But honestly, that's all the problems I have with it. They're not many, and there's more good things about this album than bad things. But yeah, it's an 8 out of 10. So that's about it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.